I'm Chris. Great. If this is your first episode, you're like, what? Don't worry about it. Video podcast.
This is what the rest of the show's going to be like.
For haste reasons.
Hello.
We're talking about Series 6, episodes 4, 5, 6 and 7 today, starting with The Doctor's Wife. You, not Chris.
Yes.
What's The Doctor's Wife about?
The Doctor and Amy and Rory get a little cube message in the previous episode, is that right?
No, it's at the start of this one.
Start of this one.
And it's lovely because it starts with a knock at the door and they're like, but aren't we in deep space?
But
The Doctor's like, yeah. As though that's like no big deal. But it is obviously quite an ominous like idea.
I wouldn't say it was lovely. It did freak me out a little bit because it's like, ugh, why is there a knock on the door? A space knock.
A Spock.
A Spock. It was Spock! No.
But it's apparently a message from a Time Lord known as the Corsair. And the Doctor recognises it because of it's an Ouroboros symbol, a snake eating its tail.
Yeah.
Is on the side of the cube.
A tattoo on their arm.
They had no matter what their regeneration, they would always get the tattoo again.
Yeah. I never thought of that. They'd have to get it done again.
Well, it depends. Because the reason why this is even an idea...
John Pertwee.
It's first episode. He has got navel tattoos. Specifically, one of them is like a snake.
Yeah.
So... It's that... Oh, yes, put the tea.
Oh.
Sorry, buddy. I put... brain. He had a tattoo.
Yeah.
And it was just because John Pertwee had his navel tattoos.
Navel,
from when he was
yeah.
in the Navy. What? What?
Just me going...
What?
Me going, oh, navel.
Jesus. Oh, God.
Oh, navel. Oh, it's bad, Richard.
Then the Doctor says a line that's so very obviously a Stephen Moffat add-on to Neil Gaiman's script, which is even when even when they were a woman, she was a bad girl, and just like, why?
Oh,
this is the beginning of the 11th Doctor saying weirdly sexually charged statements. Like this is the beginning of the 11th Doctor unprompted making big sweeping sexual statements. And it's really weird.
It's horrible.
Like, it's not weird when it's, a mutual thing, like him and River flirting. You sort of go, okay, sure. But, I am bracing myself for the moment of pure cringe next series when he talks about a mystery wrapped in an enigma, because that is one of my least favourite moments of the entire 11th Doctor's run. But yeah, so, aside from those obvious little isms, this is Neil Gaiman's first script. And it's sort of a self-contained... bottle episode in a way, because they follow the distress signal and they end up on the location we're going to spend the majority of the story on, even though it'll look different because we'll pop into the TARDIS and whatnot.
The rickety old TARDIS.
Do you remember the name of the location, what it's called? Because it's an asteroid sort of structure outside of reality. It's like just outside of the known universe. They had to use the distress signal to boost them to it. It's not somewhere they're meant to be able to reach.
Yeah. Isn't it House?
Yes, voiced by Michael. Love him as a Seraphale, but getting so weirded out by seeing him without a beard nowadays. Sheen, which is lovely because it's Michael Sheen.
Oh yeah, because you asked me who do I think it was?
Yeah, and you listed it out. And I was like, I'll give you a clue. Welsh actor.
Welsh. And
that apparently immediately narrowed it down. And then I think we laughed like a Voltaire and moved on with our lives. That's not the laugh.
Oh my god, that was really good.
Thank you.
Oh,
just like Michael Sheen felt really good making the Twilight movies, because he was just like,
bullshit.
This is utter bullshit, but I'm earning a lot of money for playing a very camp villain. But in this, he's playing quite a sinister villain, and because it's a voice role, it means we could totally see him again in a different role at some point. Yes, please. But yeah, what is House? Can you remember?
Excuse me. He's just an entity, isn't he?
It's something at the centre of the planet. It's like a thing that has gathered in its orbit, like stuff's amassed around it to create this structure.
Like an asteroid kind of thing.
Sort of. Well, yeah. It's like it's the core of this thing that they're on.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, it is an asteroid. I'm just looking at it now.
yeah, and it's a organism that exists like psychically. So it doesn't have to stay there per se. Like its consciousness can move on. Because yeah, like if you're watching this, you know the plot. Turns out House is not like the safe haven for a bunch of people who went missing, like the Corsair, who were just going, "Oh, is anyone out there? Can help me get home?" or whatever. Like that's not what it is. It's a parasite that leeches off of essentially the energy of ships, and it seems kill off the owners of the ships, but specifically the ships that it feasts on are TARDISes, Time Lord vessels.
Ooh.
So it's craft that have like a soul, basically.
This was really creepy.
Right? And when you realise that they're all TARDISes, it suddenly makes the surface of House more disturbing. You realise that it's dirt and everything, yeah. But all of the things, the small buildings, crumbling buildings, the giant like H.R. Geiger alien matte painting spaceship in the Vista and everything, they're all TARDISes that just like that's what they looked like when they landed.
Yeah.
That's how they blended in. And they've just decayed because they've been left there like empty.
What's amazing is that it looks like shipwrecks at the bottom of the ocean.
Yes, yeah.
It looks really, really cool. Because at first I thought, well, I say at first, we're at a point where I've completely forgotten what all these episodes are. So it's as if I'm going into this like.
Oh yeah, yes. These are stories you saw go out in 2011.
I'll sit there and I'll just be squinting at it, thinking,
"Have I watched this one?
I haven't seen this. What's this?"
And you have seen it.
I have.
You have.
When it first came out. I've forgotten the pirate thing. Oh yeah, so I
shipwrecks,
remember when first seeing it, and I was like, "Oh my god, is this underwater? What's going on?"
But that's the thing, isn't it? It's sort of like detritus. It's like wreckage.
Yeah.
And apparently, sometimes people fall through this.
Yeah.
Because we have auntie and uncle, who essentially are like what's it called? What's it called now? The boat. It's bloody all the parts have been replaced. They talk about WandaVision. They use it in the finale. Like the two visions don't have a big punch up because they basically have a theological debate. The ship of Theseus, something like that.
I'm not sure.
But the idea is it's like when you replace a broom handle and the broom brush, and everyone goes, "Oh, it's my favourite broom." It's like, is it even the same broom anymore?
It's not the same one because you've replaced it.
And that's what auntie and uncle are. Like even the Doctor sort of like, there's probably nothing left of who you originally were because House apparently repairs people who crash land there, and improves them, or you know they're more useful to him if they can do things. So
well, they have a very short lifespan, don't they? So whoever like appears there or drops into wherever they are, House takes them.
Patchwork people.
Yeah, takes them apart and changes what needs to be changed. Because doesn't Auntie have an arm longer than the other?
Which has the Corsair's arm.
Yeah.
Because you see the snake tattoo.
Yeah, and Uncle has 2 right feet or something. 2 left.
2 left feet, and he's got like a blue complexion with a pointy ear on one side of his face, and it's sort of disguised that underneath. It's sort of like a desert hat with like the sand shield and everything. 2 of the other residents, the other 4 that are living there, are nephew, who is an Ood with a broken communicator, who basically seems to be doing House's will, which you could say is like, oh, is it a random evil Ood? But then early on, House sort of takes hold of auntie and uncle and talks through them.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Creepy.
Yeah.
Oh,
meaning that
creepy.
Meaning that nephew's entire existence is basically just as a little remote controlled enforcer.
Yeah. Which
is really upsetting. When you know the Ood, that's really upsetting because you know that it would not do that at all.
Yeah.
And then there is Idris, who we only actually meet for about 2 minutes at the start of the story.
Yeah.
Because then she dies. Because House's method is he takes essentially the soul of the heart of the TARDIS, as it's been referred to in the modern era so far.
Yeah.
Takes the heart of the TARDIS out of the machine before it lands.
Yeah.
Because then it's easier to basically butcher the machine from inside and take all of its energy and its reserves and feed off of it, because the heart of the TARDIS would fight back otherwise. But you can't just cast it out because it's like a mini nuclear explosion. It's unimaginable power.
Yeah.
It's unstable, so you have to put it somewhere. So it seems what he does is one of his strays, in this case it's Idris by this point, he shoves the soul of the TARDIS into them, and then they effectively like live for a few hours and their body can't handle it, and both they and the energy inside them die. Like that's what he's done countless times to all these other machines. It's like he's put the heart of their TARDIS into someone.
Yeah.
Let that person and the heart of the TARDIS die.
Because she's not made up of anything else, is she?
She's either fairly new or she's been left untempered so that she can take it. Basically, she can handle the heart of the TARDIS.
The power, yeah. The power.
So poor Idris, like, dead before the opening credits and referred to as Idris throughout the story by other characters, but Idris ain't here anymore.
Idris dead.
The cast are wonderful because obviously it's a very small cast, but Saran Jones, holy shit, she's so good.
Really good in this.
Like instant iconic status within the show's run.
Yeah.
Because
like I don't remember this episode.
You could fumble this. It's the first and only episode where the TARDIS is in human form.
Yeah.
This could be spectacular or it could be awful, and it kind of rests on the shoulders of whoever's playing them.
Yeah.
And she's sort of like, this whole episode has like in its direction and style, and this is in a lot of adaptations of Gaiman's work tend to lean into this weirdly. It has a very Burton-esque vibe to it in places, like the designs of the patchwork people and the lighting and whatnot. And this is no insult to Saran Jones because she's phenomenal in this. I'm not just saying she's like, diet version this, but the Helena Bonham Carter is strong in this performance.
Yeah.
Like that kind of character actor is what I'm referring to. I'm not saying she's just doing a Helena Bonham Carter.
No. Nobody can do a Helena Bonham Carter.
But that's the thing. I think the only other person who could do it the only person who could do it this way would probably be Helena Bonham Carter. Like and it's a very specific type of quirky and tragic and silly and a little bit gothic and Saran Jones does an amazing job.
Really good.
Such a good job. She's brilliant in this.
It's sad as well because it's like the TARDIS is trying to understand being a person.
Such a big word, so big and sad. No, not sad, not yet. And she's just muttering to herself and all this stuff, and you're like, what is going on? And like early on when she talks, she says like a thing about like you're like a 9-year-old trying to repair a motorbike. And you're like, what's she talking about? And then later on it's what she says to the Doctor when he's like trying to build a makeshift TARDIS.
Yeah.
And you're like, she was sort of looking ahead in her own time stream without realising it.
That's crazy. Is that even possible?
Well, it's for a TARDIS. Things we like and things we don't like. I like the scary sequence where Amy and Rory are locked in the TARDIS, the physical TARDIS, and basically tortured by House. I dislike that the physical TARDIS seems to just have one giant T-shaped corridor that looks the same. Now, that being said, the alternative is industrial corridors and a swimming pool with a sun lounger to be tripped over by a Sontaran.
Oh god, yeah.
But we've also had the cloister room in the Fourth Doctor's era, in Keeper of Track and in the TV movie.
Keep on tracking.
Like in the TV movie with its big old gothic, staircases and archways. The TARDIS has looked very frightening and interesting.
You could literally do anything you want with
the fact that it's just sort of these corridors, which look cool. It's like, yeah, sure, I believe that those would sort of spin out of that console room.
Tin foil and corrugated card.
Welcome to the Future Zone. The crystal muck.
Oh my god.
But it doesn't...
If you guys know what that is...
Well done.
chime off in the comments and pat yourself on the back. And go and watch it again because it's very funny.
But
sorry,
it just doesn't. Yeah, it felt like there could be more.
Like what's happening in it is really impactful and really scary and palpable. But then you're just distracted by. I know it's supposed to all look the same, but it's really boring.
And then obviously it's got the backed up console room as a place for them to congregate. And the Doctor's being like, no, I jettison all of them, and the TARDIS interest is like, no, I archive them. Like, just because you don't like them, I keep them.
Which is really cute.
Including, and sort of alludes to having several saved that he's not used yet, but he will. But it's like, that's quite cute. That she's like, yeah, I've saved them all. Oh, that one. You don't recognise that one. Oh, yeah, you've not used it yet. It's like, wait, what? It's like, you will, but you haven't. But of course, it just randomly takes us back into the previous era's TARDIS, the 9th, 10th Doctor TARDIS, which is so unusual when you think about it, because it means that the half-destroyed set that was left after the end of time got repaired, renewed, repainted, to be shot this one time for this one episode, and then they took the console bit out of it and moved it to the Doctor Who experience and added it to the exhibition.
Yeah. I
find that so strange that they're just like, oh yeah, because I stood on that set between the end of time and the Doctor's wife being filmed. I stood on it in mid-2010. It was ash. It was grey and sooted, and it was destroyed. Like, chunks of the console were missing because it had been cannibalised to use on the new one. So the fact that they repaired it up enough like this to film a whole scene in it for this story, and it just looked like, oh yeah, it looks like it has done for the last few years, except it's just a bit darker.
But at least you know they recycle.
Yeah, true. But it's cute. I really, really like Auntie and Uncle. They're the right level of sinister and sort of goofy and weird and creepy.
It's not how I remembered it at all. Well, I didn't remember much of it. But what I was saying before, that she's an iconic character of Doctor Who now.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember what the episode was about, but I knew exactly that it was the Doctor's wife. And
I love that that's never... It's not discussed or even referenced in the story, but the title makes absolute sense.
And it's cute that...
It's his one actual constant companion.
Yeah.
Like his one love that has... they've been together for 1,000 years, at the very least.
I thought it was really cute that she said that she took him.
Yeah.
Like she wanted to run away and see the stars, and she kidnapped him.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cute. Also, I can't remember how I felt watching that episode when it first came out. I don't remember. But having seen the Doctor and the TARDIS being the constant duo
throughout the
whole thing.
Having now binged the show from 1963 to 2011.
Having her personified and seeing him so emotional that she's got to go back into the heart of the TARDIS and be the TARDIS and isn't a person anymore. How sad he is really heartbreaking, because it's like, yeah, they've been together for hundreds and hundreds of years now, and you would be sad. Like, if Bullseye turned into a real horse or something. That's a bad example.
For context.
Oh, he's my teddy
not Chris has a giant teddy of Bullseye from Toy Story 2.
And he's a great spooning.
He's amazing. He is the second best present. No, he's the first best present I've ever bought you. Your Nintendo Switch is the second.
Ah, yeah.
Because you'd be playing Animal Crossing every day. That wasn't a present, that was a statement of intent. The popcorn I bought you that day, that was your birthday present.
That was good popcorn.
It's damn good popcorn.
What was that?
We got engaged on a bit. Yeah, but like if Bullseye came to life, like someone you spent the last 8 years cuddling.
Yeah.
And you knew they were only going to be able to talk to them for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, if they turned into...
You'd feel sad to say like, oh, we're not going to be able to talk after this. And it is wonderful because, of course, like, he thinks that the word that she was looking for is goodbye, and it's no, it was hello. Like, the word that is so wonderful and complex and everything, but also very, very sad.
Yeah.
But it will be sad. Of course, it's the last thing she gets to say to him.
But it's like they're not gonna be together. It's not that they're not gonna be together anymore. It's just that they can't talk to each other anymore.
It's like a relationship with a pet.
Yeah.
Because like you can sort of show each other affection in little ways, but you don't really know what they're thinking. You just hope that they understand you love them. Do you know what I mean? Like you hope that your cat or your dog or your hamster or your guinea pig, whatever, you hope that they know you care a lot about them.
Well, I know what Minnie's thinking.
No, but you know what I mean. Like the TARDIS can do, because I love that. It's like, you never took me where I wanted to go, and she says no, but I always took you where you needed to go.
It's a bit like...
So all those times that the TARDIS didn't work, or made the wrong call,
yeah,
especially a lot in the early days, where it was this whole thing of like, oh, it never quite goes where it's meant to.
Where have you brought us?
Yeah, and it's because the TARDIS has gone like, oh, hang on, there's something over here, you need to go and see it.
But also, he calls her sexy.
But only when we're alone.
Which was really... I thought...
I think you call me sexy. Yeah,
I hate Stephen Moffatisms. Because it makes... when I say it makes my skin crawl, I'm not joking. I get that sensation.
But we know this incarnation, at the very least, has called the TARDIS sexy. Like, 11th hour, oh, you sexy thing. Like, when he first sees it rejuvenated for the first time, out of shot for us. Yeah. And it's so sweet and flirty and funny when he first says that. So the fact that, and then when he's like, come on, sexy. You're like, yeah.
Like, people say that about their car. People say that about...
Yes, when they mean it with genuine affection to their vehicle or like gadgets in particular, like things like gadgets or like really expensive furniture or things like that. You know what I mean? It's prized possessions that they really, really love and they're so happy they've got.
Yeah. I keep bringing up horses. I'm sorry.
Weird,
I don't know what's that about.
I love like when she's like, "Hello, I'm sexy." So it's the TARDIS, but she's a woman. What? It's the TARDIS, but she's a woman. That's the TARDIS, and she's a woman. Did you wish really hard?
It's so cute. It's so cute. I love it. I think. What's the actress's name? Sorry.
Saran Jones.
Saran Jones. I think her and Matt Smith play.
Oh yeah.
Not against each other. Sorry, with each
off of each other.
Off of each other. That's what I meant to say.
After having watched this one again, for me probably the first time about 5 years. I think I've gone back to this one a few times, but like I just want to see these two act in something again opposite each other.
I'm kind of like, oh, bye Amy and Rory, and now it's the TARDIS and the TARDIS and the Doctor.
Karen and Arthur do a good job, but again, this is sort of this weird point where it could be any companion in that role.
Yeah.
The fact that all the hallucinations seem to be from Amy's POV, so we're seeing Rory die again and again is a bit like, take another shot. It's another Rory death. Yeah. You get some really nice dialogue. Like we've already highlighted a few lines, but the TARDIS referring to Rory as the pretty one. And the Doctor being awfully confused by the notion the TARDIS finds him pretty. But it makes you think, hang on, what are the nicknames of the TARDIS given for the companions over the years? Like, so that the TARDIS has a name for them. Apparently Rory's the pretty one.
The pretty
one.
Pretty. So pretty.
But yeah, the bit where House and the Doctor are facing off at the end and he's just kind of faffing around with them. He's sort of stalling House just enough to allow time for Idris. Because Idris's body dies.
Yeah.
But as they've arrived in the original console room, because the Doctor essentially says he's going to help House. Because that's what House wants to do at this point. Take control of this TARDIS while it still has some energy, use it to get to the main universe, like back into the universe, and then go looking for more energy to leech. Yeah. But of course, he's holding the key.
Yeah.
Like if they defeat House, they're screwed. They can't leave this universe.
Yeah.
So they need him to get back, but he's not going to let them live, and obviously moves them back to the main console room, and that's what the Doctor wanted all along. Because even though Idris's body dies, the heart of the TARDIS has just enough time to
get back in,
use her as a vessel to get in there, and then get back into the TARDIS, and basically kill House, just eradicate it.
Bye.
But you have that trailer line that, oh, fear me, I've killed hundreds of Time Lords. Fear me, I've killed them all. And you're just like, oh, Jesus.
Ooh, that's deep.
Ooh, got a little deep there for a second.
What's that from?
The Broadway soundtrack to Aladdin.
Oh, I thought so. Yeah.
It's not what's on the inside, on the outside, but on the inside that counts. Oh, got a little deep there for a sec. Now that's an obscure ass reference to a major Broadway show based on a very popular Disney movie. The point is,
excellent.
I really like the story.
Yeah, me too.
I really, really, really like it.
It
works
was
great as a bottle when the Doctor realizes that the cabinet's just basically full of distress signals.
Yeah. Ooh.
And that they let the Corsairs one out just so they could lure another TARDIS in. Like, that's...
Sneaky. It's quite disturbing, really. It actually really is.
The 11th Doctor's such
Classic
he's
Neil Gaiman.
He's such a goober, he's such a child. And so bubbly and enthusiastic that when you see him push toward genuine anger and you're suddenly looking at, like he reminds me in particular of, like, Pertwee or Eccleston, that level of, oh, you've made the Doctor mad now. And the way those two would play off of it.
It's like
they almost wouldn't say anything at first, but just the way their demeanour would shift.
It's like
and
that.
Instantly like, oh, I feel scared for the person who's annoyed in here.
That one parent who is never angry.
They're just disappointed.
And then when they get angry, when that very rare occasion they get angry, and you're like, ah,
yeah,
scared,
perfect example.
scared.
It's like here he says, like, you did the worst thing ever. You gave me hope, and it's just like, oh my god. What did you think? Do you like it?
I thought it was pretty darn good, you know.
And the bit at the end where they just sort of, like, he can tell that the TARDIS is sort of listening to him.
Well, he's hoping.
Yeah.
And then something happens
Kind of
on
reacts,
its own.
and he's like,
like,
yes, like one of the
"Yay,
levers
there
like
she
pulls
is."
down and stuff. Him in Goggles is a look as well. Like it's a fun look where he's like repairing some stuff underneath the console. At the end.
It's very cute. It's one of those things where he's kind of mourning this person,
but pretending he's fine.
but pretending he's fine and
Yeah.
fiddling. Oh, I regret using that word. But messing about with random things, trying to fix things because he's sad.
If you're watching this video, you know what happens later in the episodes that are listed in the title and the description. So here's a quick
Nice
thought.
scrap bag.
Here's a quick thought. Melody Pond is conceived on the night of Amy and Rory's wedding. Seemingly, yeah?
Yeah.
So, a few months back,
Can I
right?
just say, who's got the energy to do that at the end of their wedding day?
I mean, to be fair, they did just leave the reception and then
That's
go on the
crazy.
TARDIS. But anyway,
Sorry.
yeah, this episode reveals that up to this point, they've had a bunk bed.
That's so funny.
Was Melody Pond conceived on a bunk bed?
That's so funny.
Melody Pond was conceived on a bunk bed.
Oh, cute. Bunk
Wonderful
beds,
stuff.
Bunk beds are fun.
A bunk bed's are fun. A bed with a ladder.
There's lots
He's
of
just so excited about it.
there's lots of amazing lines. There's lots of. I think Matt Smith really shines in this one.
Yes. Onto two parts. Onto a two-parter that sort of gets either overlooked or shat on, and I don't get it. Because I think it's really good. Like, in Series 6, this story's one of the better ones for my money. Is it perfect? No. There's some pacing issues. There could have been some more visual signifiers to help distinguish which character it is we're interacting with.
Yeah.
Even though in some scenes some scenes the point is duplicity, but only really for one of those people. Like, the rest of them, it wants you to clearly know who it is you're dealing with. If you look away from the screen for 1 second, you'll get lost as to who the hell's who and what room we're in.
Yeah.
But the Rebel Flesh and the Almost People. Great titles, for starters. These episodes were written by Matthew Graham and directed by Julian Simpson. And considering a lot of them take place in just, like, rooms in an English heritage site.
Definitely. The boiler room.
Just the castle, clearly like castle hallways and atriums and everything. The direction and the art team and everything do a great job with it. There is a decent sense of geography to the location, and I think it makes sense at all times.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is the one where the Doctor is seemingly answering a solar flare knocks them toward this place. and they arrive at essentially an acid refinery on Earth.
Yeah, they're kind of almost like mining for it, aren't they?
Mining for acid in the 22nd century. And the solar flares are going to screw with everything and absolutely... Basically, they're going to eradicate the place's safety protocol and whatnot, and everyone there is in danger. So the Doctor's there to convince them that they need to leave. Problem is, the most recent solar flare set off an issue where the gangers, the flesh avatar duplicates of the workers, which are sort of mentally piloted by the workers to do the job for safety reasons.
Yeah, because it's too dangerous because it's acid.
Acid! Boiling acid! If you know that reference, let me know in the comments. I'm not going to tell you.
No, mime it.
No, I'll tell you afterwards. If I remember. What? Say what you said out loud. No, not Rick and Morty.
Oh, okay.
No.
Rick and Morty.
Oh God. So yeah, the acid workers, like the people who work there, because it's a sort of partially military installation, and some of the guys who work there clearly have like either military background or background within security and stuff. Like there's a very, I don't know, very level-headed and quite to the point vibe to a lot of the characters.
Yeah.
Particularly, Cleves. She's the leader of the group. They from like these sort of beds, they telepathically pilot their flesh avatars, their gangers, which is a great bit of wordplay as well. Like, you know, what are they? Well, they're doppelgangers, right? But they're commonly used, so we'll just call them gangers. Like, people are just used to them, and that's what they are. They're used in these sorts of businesses and these sorts of conditions.
There could be different things, though. I mean, they could have been clangers.
Gangbangers?
No. Why did you say that?
Gangbanger is a mob thing. Now, if the gangbangers were having a gangbang, that'd be a different...
No, this is a kids' show,
hey,
technically.
What if a gangbang's just a knees up? A la, we're having a gangbang, we're having a ball. There you go.
Oh my God, I didn't even think of that.
Yep.
That's why black lace should be illegal.
Oh dear.
I love all types of music, but I've got limits. And I think everybody
You
should.
don't. I do. Anyway,
Get out. Right
so
now.
this recent solar flare screwed with the machinery, and now ganger duplicates of all of the crew are... There's at least one for each crew member. Or so we think. There's at least one for each. They're alive. And they have their memories. Essentially, they're clones. It's a clone story. And it becomes this battle between, like, they're not real, we need to get rid of them. And they are as real as you, though. Like, you've got a kid, guess what? So does he. He also has a kid. It's the same kid.
Yeah, but they're not human, though, are they? They've not got, like, organs and things.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Does that matter? Because the story essentially is hinging on the notion of a soul. Like, that's basically what it's all about. The story's about, like, what is it to be alive? Does it mean having a skeleton? Does it mean having organs? No, it means that you live and you experience things and you feel and you interact and you grow and you know, feel happiness and you feel joy and you feel sadness and pain and anger and fear and love. Like, this is what it's about. These guys also feel these things.
I never thought of it like the soul.
That's they don't say it outright,
No,
but that's basically what it is, isn't it? It's like so much media, especially like, you know, science fiction stuff that you watch growing up as a kid. Like, if they ever deal with clones, it's just, oh, it's an evil clone, and you just think of it as like, oh, it's a evil, you know, mirror image. It's a duplicate. You know, the doppelganger in Tomb Raider, for example.
Data. Oh yeah.
Well, was that Law? Yeah, but that's an android. Doesn't count.
Okay.
Well, I'm not saying it doesn't count because he's not a good... Anyway, the point I'm making is...
The soul! No.
The idea is, like, you know, like in Tomb Raider, the Lara faces off against a doppelganger, it's not explained, the PS2 era games sort of go into it a bit more. But it's like, that thing's alive. Like, it doesn't talk at first, and it doesn't look like her and everything exactly. It looks like a muscle version of Lara.
Oh, you're going, like, old school.
Well, yeah, but, like, when it first appears, it's like, oh, it's just evil... whatever, yeah? Evil duplicate of Lara, yeah? That's how we tend to think of clones in science fiction and adventure stuff.
That's true.
But later on, when it shows up in the PS2 trilogy, where the character it returns in Underworld, it looks like her now. It starts to mimic her speech, and it's like, is it alive?
And it has all
is it like
her
a
moves,
proper?
It has, yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So this story is just
predict
kind of
what she's going to do because
and you start
it's
to
her.
you start to rethink what it is, because it's not just like, oh, it's a Funhouse Mirror version of her. It's like, no, it's another her.
What are you doing?
And that's what this story does so well, is the Gangas are very clearly living, breathing people. They just happen to be copy-pasted from the original crew, but a copy-paste is still another copy of the original thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like, at first they were one, now it's the multi-pack version, and that's what we're dealing with. So yeah, like Jimmy, Buzzer, Jennifer, Cleves, and Dickon.
Don't even think about it.
Names aren't particularly... The names aren't used enough in the story for me to even be able to immediately designate who that is.
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to know who they are because I'm so shocking at remembering people's names.
Weird, isn't it? Weird. But...
Luna.
Oh, hang on. Actually, do you know what? No, Jimmy is the...
Jesus Christ.
Sorry, pets are causing destruction. Jimmy is
As soon as we get this camera out, the pets are like, oh, I'm going to be on crack.
Jimmy is the Scottish fella who's waiting to go back and see his weird little son who does the weird little dance.
It's weird little
Yay!
son.
His happy dance. Buzzer's the incredibly northern fellow with the broken tooth.
Broken tooth, I don't remember.
Cleves, she's the head of the whole organisation. Dickon is the younger lad, the one who's like genuinely torn between what's going on. He's just trying to basically listen to orders and get along with everybody. And then there's Jennifer. Jen, of course, provides several roles in this story. One, giving Rory some alone time as a character for us, the viewer, to see him grow and react to these situations. Rory, who last year was so reluctant and freaked out by just being in Venice, before they even get to the alien vampire fish, being in Venice in the past freaked him out. Now, he's doing everything he can because he believes it to be right, and the main thing he's focusing on is making sure that Jennifer's Ganga is protected.
Yeah.
Because as far as Rory's concerned, the Gangas are people. And everyone eventually comes round to that idea, especially after the Doctor is duplicated as well. Because the whole point of this is, the Gangas that were before were essentially just piloted things. But in the DNA of that development process, they were becoming more alive. That's why the Doctor gets duplicated, because like the machine essentially reaches out and goes, you can help. Do you know what I mean? Like the flesh, the substance reaches out to him and like snatches his DNA, so it can make a Doctor.
Yeah. Because
it's like, I need help. Like I'm alive, mother trucker. Like that's what's going on. Whether it's coherent or has a conscience or whatever as a substance, or whether or not it needs to be in an avatared form to be like that. But everyone comes around to it eventually.
Yeah.
Except one person.
Person that you...
Well, two. One, Jen's Ganga, who turns out to be the antagonist of the story in the end.
Yeah.
But the other one is...
Spoilers. Who you would not expect.
Yeah.
Amy.
Amy is hesitant and sort of borderline...
Racist?
Well, sort of xenophobic throughout the whole story.
Sorry.
She's very...
I just threw the wrench
She's
in.
very, very instinctively, reactively
Cautious
repulsed by the idea of... Like, that's not them.
Repulsed, that's a better word.
Yeah, in a way where the Doctor tries to sort of, like, talk to her about it, and she's just not having it. Even when there are two Doctors, she sides with her Doctor, and the other one makes her feel uncomfortable. Which is brilliant that we get the whole thing with the swapped shoes.
Yeah. So...
Because like the Doctor in part one, like his shoes get caught in acid briefly outside. So he's like, and he takes them off and leaves them in the mud, doesn't he? Leaves them in the acid.
Yeah.
And then he puts on a spare pair from the wardrobe of the crew. And then in part two, like that's how you tell them apart. Like the Ganga version of him is that the clothes are copied from earlier in the story.
Shoes,
whereas the Doctor is wearing like the chunky brown boots, the ill-fitting boots that he just borrowed. Except at some point early in part two, the Doctor's having the exact same idea, discreetly swapped the shoes. Because both of them, of course, are thinking about the exact same reason why they're really there, but we'll get to that in a minute.
So, the scene with Amy outside, that aggressive one, is that the real Doctor?
That's the real Doctor. Pretending to be a ganger that's breaking down.
Would that not have, like, emotionally scarred him to be like that? Because he was really aggressive.
Yeah, but, he wasn't, like... He pushed her up against the wall and stuff, but also... He knows he's testing a theory as well at that point, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
Because we really what on the surface is essentially like a castle set multiple individual remake of The Thing, where it basically becomes about like paranoia amongst everybody, and then it becomes an us and them thing, and then you've got the whole thing with Jen, played brilliantly by Sarah Smart. She's proper unnerving, because you realise that there's actually been 3 Jens for the majority of the story, and we didn't realise it. 2 gangers.
Yeah.
One of which was a decoy that we thought was the real Jen. And the real Jen had been murdered sometime shortly after the solar flare.
And what's really sad
so we haven't seen the real Jen since like the start of the story.
It's
basically.
really sad that the Doctor found her outside.
Yeah.
Doctor found her outside and she just died.
Yeah, so she was like outside, like
and she was
bleeding out or something, or like concussion or whatever. Like she was barely holding on to life, and they just found her like moments after she passed away.
And she was on her own, and it was like, oh my god!
Yeah.
This is a bad situation, and you just made it so much worse.
And the fact that ganger was so ruthless that they made another ganger, knowing that ganger would be killed. It was the whole thing was a decoy.
Yeah, and it's like...
hang on, it's not us and them. You're just out for yourself.
Yeah.
And
it's like you're trying to make a point that all these gangers are,
we deserve to live.
Exactly, and yet you've made one to purposely throw people off and kill.
And it's the fact that even though it's quite sad that Jen got killed earlier, was left for dead early in the story without us all knowing.
Yeah.
Something inside her was capable of this stuff.
Yeah, because she's a copy.
The other gangers aren't like evil by default.
Yeah.
It's not like she's a broken one, or like there's something wrong with her creation. Like
she's a carbon copy of the real human one.
Like and maybe you could argue that well, we see a pile of like her previous offcuts that didn't quite make it, which were just discarded in the waste pipe, but then you see they're still conscious.
Yeah.
So you could argue that because she, unlike the others, seems to have retained the memories of her previous duplicates, or at least the pain, that she's been driven mad. But it's like, yeah, but that implies that pushed this way, Jen, the original recipe Jen probably would have done something similar.
Probably would have turned out to be a sign.
And also it says but if she knows the pain and suffering everyone has to go through, why would she then inflict that on another Jen ganger?
Exactly.
It's really upsetting, and obviously she does start to become physically unstable toward the end, or at least she doesn't let her concentration stay on keeping together. So we get this nightmarish The Ring meets some kind of creature out of Silent Hill, which you were not expecting.
No. I am sad that you did not warn me about this. Because she kind of is
She's straight giraffing.
Yeah. If you've ever seen Wreck, the Spanish Wreck horror film.
The original, not Quarantine.
Not Quarantine.
Quarantine, fine. Similar creature, but yeah.
The creature at the end, that's exactly what this made me think of. And I saw that as a young teenager, and I was traumatised to the point where I am still traumatised.
To the point where you had to show me the film at some point, about 5 years ago.
And I realised...
Just to get it out of your system.
I realised that it's not as bad as I remembered, but it's still bad as I remembered. And I was getting flashbacks, and I was like, oh no! What the hell? Who signed up on this?
It's great.
Who could put this in a kids show?
And it does look better than the long neck version of her from part 1.
Yeah,
which
that
just
was
looked
still creepy.
Yeah, but it just looked a bit weird. And then in this there's a bit where a mouth extends and the shot of her lunging forward, the shot of it starting looks creepy.
God.
The shot of her lunging forward looks creepy, but it sort of dwells on it for just a little too long at first, and it looks a little bit ropey.
I'd like to talk to the person that signed off on this. I really would, because there's something wrong with them.
We lose Dickon and we lose Jimmy. Do we lose both buzzers?
I don't know.
We do, don't we? Both buzzers die.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, so Ganga Jimmy goes back to Jimmy's family, like to be with his wife and kid. So he gets his happy ending, but he does it also to honour original recipe Jimmy who dies.
Yeah.
From a really horrific, like, he gets a splash of acid on his chest, and he lives long enough to sort of say goodbye and say goodbye to the Ganga and like say he forgives him and stuff.
And so
but it's
you've got to
be strong for both of them now.
You've got to love the family and.
But it's so disturbing when you realise that he's just lay there as a acidic substance is dripping through his rib cage onto his heart. Like, that's so dark.
Ooh.
Yeah. And Clone...
It's a show really for kids.
Ganga Dickon goes back with original Cleves. Yeah, her Ganga dies, don't they?
Yeah. Her Ganga and the Doctor's Ganga sacrifice themselves.
That's it, at the end, yeah.
To stop this... It's like
basically, they have to stay there long enough for the solar flare to do its thing.
It's like a supersonic wave thing with the screwdriver, isn't it? Because they're like,
they kill themselves as painlessly as they can,
as well as them.
Yeah, because the Doctor at some point figures out a frequency that can disrupt sort of the connection to the
the particles of the.
So Dickon and Dickon to Electric Boogaloo and Cleves go to essentially present to the UN and different security thingies over the world that, like, hey, guess what? This technology, it's leading to sentience in the flesh.
It's wrong.
Like, we need to stop this, and if there are any Gangas out there right now, we should probably, like, make sure they're okay and get them, like, help them settle in to their lives, because, like, they deserve to live.
They're real.
And it could be that around the world at these places, there's only, like, 10 Gangas currently walking around.
Wasn't it like the latest technology or something?
Well, yeah, it was being developed more and more for like dangerous businesses and industries like this. Yeah. But yeah, interesting idea. Doesn't need to be a big finished box set, just put it out there. But it's an interesting idea.
Is it?
No, but it shouldn't be.
Why did you say that?
Because everything gets turned into a big finished box set that's a loose end at this point.
Oh.
But we then find out the entire reason why this happened. They didn't get caught in the solar flare and end up at this location. The Doctor purposely rode the solar flare to get here because he wanted to study Ganga technology from the 22nd century of Earth. Because ever since the first story, the two-parter, Amy's been showing up on the TARDIS scanner as pregnant, not pregnant, pregnant, not pregnant, pregnant, not pregnant, pregnant, not pregnant. It's just never settling.
Because she told the Doctor that she was pregnant, and then she said, "Oh, I'm not." And the Doctor was like,
it must have been a mistake. And he's like, "Oh, okay." Yeah. So the Doctor had a hunch that Amy was a Ganga. And the reason why he went to do all this in the first place, originally he was just going to pop there and inspect it, essentially, wasn't he?
I don't know. I don't really understand this.
So he had a hunch that Amy was a Ganga. Right?
But how?
Well, he obviously knew that at some point in Earth's history that was a thing that happens.
Oh, I guess that you could, the
But he
TARDIS
was
not
aware
being able
of
to
them.
guess,
like, yeah,
know that she was pregnant is because she wasn't like.
And how she just immediately kind of moved on, like from the subject, being like, yeah, no, it turns out it was a mistake. Moving on. He had a suspicion that it wasn't Amy, basically. He's now learned that no, it wasn't. It was a Ganga. Meaning the original Amy, in the traditional Ganga sense, like the way that they were originally used, where it's like someone is piloting them from like a bay of some sort.
Yeah.
So actual Amy is out there somewhere, and this is a Ganga avatar.
And that the original Amy is like unconscious.
Which is why this ganger keeps seeing this woman with an eye patch looking through a hatch and different surfaces every now and again. Because it's glimpses of what Amy can actually see.
Yeah.
Getting through.
Which is really creepy.
The ganger's resistance to the duplicate, like being really standoffish and creeped out by it all, I think it's implying that it's almost like on an instinctive level. The ganger is just like, don't look into this. Don't look into this. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I guess.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
even if it's not planning that, because it doesn't have its own will necessarily. Like it's just it's Amy in a pilot seat. But of course, Amy, probably part of her knows that there's a duplicate. The actual Amy probably knows that subconsciously there's a duplicate of her out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Even if she spends most of her time thinking that she is that duplicate because she's just seeing through its eyes and piloting it.
Yeah.
Now, that means that this ganger is essentially just a flesh avatar. But the whole point of this story is that this technology is developing sentience. So there's one line where the Doctor goes, considering what we've learnt, I'm going to try to do this as painlessly and humanely as I can. But that being said, it's kind of weird that he then disrupts the connection and the ganger bursts and melts. Because it's like, you just killed somebody?
We've just spent this whole
And it's not like...
two episodes watching this and being told that, oh, they can't just be killed willy-nilly. It's not ethical, it's not right. And then he just went and did it. It was
and again, like they try to use the justification of like this is just a simple one. It's a basic flesh avatar. It isn't sentient. But the whole point of this story is saying that they all are on a certain level, whether they realise it or not. So the only way that you could justify him completely exploding this ganger avatar is if somehow that immediately revealed the location of Amy to them. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't, because at the start of the next story, they're trying to find her by like interrogating other people. So he just basically kills a ganger.
Yeah.
It's so weird. I mean, I know why it's there. It's there because it's the shock value of we know the next episode's the last one for a few months. And what a cliffhanger going into the mid-season finale. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we cut to the reveal of Amy alive in this chamber, very, very heavily pregnant. In fact, you can't get more heavily pregnant because she's going into her contractions.
Going into labour.
Going into labour. And she's doing the contractions with big fucking turf looking through a window at her and going, push.
Ew! No, don't do that because that's icky.
Her delivery's really creepy.
It makes that's something like deep down that's making me freak out. I hate that.
I really like the Rebel Flesh and the Almost People. It's got flaws. Some effects look a bit dated. Some effects look dated at the time, I think, with some of the stretchy stuff and the ganger puddle. But it doesn't lose the shock and tonal horror of what's going on as a result.
Yeah.
What do you think? Because you didn't remember this one like at all, did you? So
I remembered that there were plastic people.
They're not plastic people! They're made of flesh!
It is plastic though, because they melt.
No, it's flesh.
Yeah, it is plastic.
No, it's flesh. If they're plastic, they'd be autons.
Plastic. Anyway, yeah. It's a bit boring.
Really?
Yeah.
Not a fan.
I didn't.
Sounds like you liked certain bits of it more than you liked it as a whole.
I didn't like. No, hold on. Let me rephrase that. I didn't understand the whole thing with Amy and the gangers, and I don't know. I don't know if it was just me not paying attention, or
I think a lot of it is visual signifiers. Like
it's just like
it's well into part 2
Don't
before it
sit.
becomes obvious which group you're looking at.
yeah, and this sounds really stupid, but I was really distracted by the girl that was playing
Jen.
Because she looks exactly like Emily Watson.
Who's Emily Watson?
A younger version of Emily Watson.
Who's Emily Watson? Please elaborate. Is that an actor?
Yeah.
Oh yes, I recognise. Oh yes, I can see that now.
And it was just distracting me the whole time.
That's for clarification. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see that.
So for some reason, that's all I could think of. So maybe that's one of the reasons why I didn't connect as much to this one.
I think one of the reasons I enjoyed it this time more than I ever have done is because from the very beginning, I was watching Matt Smith's performance.
Right.
Because he's doing two performances. Oh, obviously, the Doctor and the Ganga, but I mean, he's doing two performances here as far as the story. He's playing the Doctor interacting in the story.
Yeah.
And behind his eyes, he's playing the Doctor that's come here with a purpose.
Yeah.
And the whole time is investigating this thing, even though he's not saying anything about it.
Yeah.
And the Ganga, of course, is doing the same thing. In part two, he and the Ganga are both thinking about the real reason they're there.
Yeah.
He's so good.
because that Ganga Doctor would know, wouldn't he?
Yeah. He is so good. Because he's doing so much work for something that on the first viewing you'll never notice.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
And and that was what was lovely about this. You were so disconnected from this that you wouldn't have picked up on that stuff.
Yeah.
So there were two of us on the couch. One of us was looking at it from a I've not watched this in a million years / this is my first time point of view. And one of us was looking at it from a right. Now I know what's really going on.
Well, you've watched this one a couple of times, haven't you?
Over the years, yeah.
Yeah.
But not for like 5 years. I think last time I watched this was for Time Team, like 6-7 years ago.
No.
But yeah, I really like it. I genuinely really like it. I think Matt Smith's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I also think it's wonderful that the episode doesn't touch on it, but Amy confesses to the Ganga Doctor that she saw the Doctor die.
Yes.
And she sort of hints at the idea that maybe she's hoping that it's the Ganga one who dies. Do you remember? She sort of starts to go towards saying something about it, and then I was just hoping that maybe it wasn't him or... And it's like, oh, wow, that's dark. But that might also be like subliminal thingy from the real Amy being like, kill the clone, kill the clone! Kill the clone.
Like,
that's
kill
why
me,
she's
kill me.
and that's why she's xenophobic, and because she's not really xenophobic, she's just trying to say like Ganga's bad, boo, get rid of the Gangas because I'm a Ganga and I want you to get rid of me, please.
Come save me.
We then jump to the mid-season finale,
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
which I think is my favourite finale for Smith. After the Big Bang Pandora opens, I know it's not even a proper finale, but like thinking ahead to his others. Yeah, I think this is my favourite Matt Smith finale.
Do you want to know something?
After the Big Bang Pandora opens. Go on.
Mine too.
It's so much fun, right? So, mid-series 6, when this went out on TV, there was a break of like 3 or 4 months, and then the rest of the series came along. So, like an American, long-running American sort of genre show, or drama series, they had a mid-season finale, one to leave you talking until the show came back a few months later.
Why did they have that?
Sherlock, essentially.
Oh.
Long story, very short. Sherlock. Bit of Tintin sprinkled in, but mostly Sherlock.
Tintin?
Moffat wrote the script for Tintin. The Adventures of Tintin, the Spielberg movie.
I like that.
And he tried to get involved because it was delayed for various reasons. He tried to get involved in the rewrites. Time ran out. Sherlock was a priority because he was showrunning Doctor Who and Balancing Sherlock. So Edgar Wright and Joe Cornish stepped in to do the rewrites.
Joe Cornish.
So yeah. So Tintin is directed by Spielberg and written by Stephen Moffat with Edgar Wright and Joe Cornish, who were both sort of working on that whilst also working on Ant-Man. Of course, their version never got back because the Edgar Wright Ant-Man would have been co-written by Joe Cornish.
Oh no!
Skull and Balls.
Oh,
yeah.
Which
is why when you watch Ant-Man, the story credit, like the script credit, is script by Peyton Reed, the director.
Yeah.
Story by Peyton Reed, Paul Rudd, Edgar Wright, and Joe Cornish, because technically they used some ideas from their version as well.
Well, at least they gave them
story credit. Yeah, but as much as I love Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp, I think Peyton Reed did a great job. I still think we'd all like to take a peek into the alternate universe where Edgar Wright's Ant-Man, that was a non-MCU movie and was in development for years.
Yeah.
What that would have been.
Dang.
But anyway, so we've got a mid-season finale because things were moved around, and then add to that, like, the actors were starting to book other things because they knew there was going to be a bit of a break. So, like, I think Smith, I think it's during Series 7, like Smith booked a film and all this sort of stuff. There's all sorts of things.
Terminator or something?
Oh, that was way after this.
Oh, was it?
Actually, yeah, I think it was. I
have no
think it was
concept of
after
time.
I think it was after the filming of Day of the Doctor was when Smith booked a film as a Ryan Gosling directed movie that Matt Smith was in, that's where he shaved his head. He shaved his head for that film.
Wasn't that Terminator?
No, but that's why he's wearing a wig in the Day of the Doctor trailer, you know, the brilliant trailer where the camera's going through all the different eras and stuff. And then he wears a wig in his last story, which they make a point of because they write a whole scene where he has no hair. And at the same time, Karen Gillan shaved her hair off to do Guardians of the Galaxy, because for the first Guardian she shaved her hair off to make the makeup process for Nebula easier.
She was Nebula!
And then, when she appears as a hallucination in his last scenes in Time of the Doctor, they're both wearing wigs. Which is such a weird idea. It's like their last scene together, they're both wearing wigs.
See if we can
Karen's
tell.
made of her own hair.
That's
when she got it shaved off for Nebula, she got it turned into a wig.
That's kind of
because at Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con 2013, when nerding out, she came out and then she pulled her hair off. And I was like, wait, what? And in the years since, they've obviously changed the technique and developed it. She's only ever just, in the years since, whenever she's played Nebula, she's just sort of cut it shorter, but not like super short. Or
I mean, it's
off.
Marvel.
Yeah, but
you're gonna do it.
It's also, I guess, just easier time in the makeup trailer if you've got a shaved head for that kind of role anyway. But like, as the films develop, the people who work on those same makeup techniques will develop how they do it and simplify it and whatnot. For example, like in this story, we have Dan Starkey returning to play a new Sontaran character, for example. This is Starkey's third stab, because he was Score the Bloodbringer in Sontaran Stratagem and Poison Sky.
Great name.
This isn't war, this is sport! He was the Sontaran that was randomly going to shoot Mickey and Martha in the epilogue of End of Time.
Oh, really?
And, this is him debuting a character that we'll see quite a bit going forward, Strax, the Sontaran. Because the first, 15 minutes of this episode is just the Doctor off-screen recruiting people who owe him a favour. I love the setup of this one. So we'll get to it. I can see you smirking. We'll get to it. So we have the Church of the... I don't even know if they call them the Church of the Silence yet, but we learn that this organisation, led by Eye Patch Lady, now finally named as Madame Kavarian, has taken Amy.
Lady Turd.
They've got her baby. This story is this episode starts like a month after the birth of Melody, because the baby's called Melody Pond. It's like a month later or something, isn't it? It's like a bit of time has passed since she gave birth.
I mean, it's a bit of a tradition with TV that they don't use babies that have just been born, because these babies are much bigger than a newborn baby. Even
so, this is a small baby. Yeah, a real small baby.
Oh, whoever that baby is, very, very cute. Very cute.
They grew up to be a murderer.
Oh no.
They'd be about 10 now. 10 or 11.
Oh my goodness me.
As of this recording. God, they'll be in high school. That's so weird. But yeah, so it's been that amount of time, and we learn of the soldiers there, the military, that are led by Colonel Manton, played by an excellent Danny Sapani, who doesn't get enough thumbs up for this. He does a great job in this as Colonel Manton. Because he's sort of the episode's antagonist, really, isn't he? Like, the military leader of the group who's going to get everybody in, all of his soldiers are trained to kill the Doctor.
I mean,
the soldiers seem to be...
Is he in it that much?
Yeah, well, he gives a big old speech in the hall and everything.
Is he in it?
Yeah, no, but considering he's the only sort of person they face off against in this, he does quite a good job.
Yeah.
You believe that this is a man who is bought into the mission of what they're doing, which is apparently killing the Doctor.
No.
And we still don't entirely know why.
Yeah.
But we learn that all the soldiers there are people that are either aware of the Doctor or have studied the Doctor.
Yeah.
So we're getting the sense now that there are people out in the universe who've paid attention. I kind of hate that until we meet Lorna Bucket, which is such a Series 5 adjacent name. Lorna Bucket sounds like she'd be the best mate of Amelia Pond.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's the same, and that's a very deliberate choice. She sounds like she's come from that same sort of school of ideas.
Yeah.
For the characters for the series. She's played by Christina Chong, who does a wonderful job, because her character sells me on why this isn't too obnoxious and aggrandizing of the Doctor being a legend and all these things, which the episode does a lot of, unfortunately. But she's someone who met him at some point when she was young.
Yeah.
He, presumably the 11th Doctor, because she seems to recognise him.
Yeah.
And it could be any Doctor though. But saved her world, and she was there, and they did a lot of running and everything. And it's that whole, that romanticised, like, the second Doctor sort of started that era of the idea of, like, like, you're always running around, like, when I say run, run, and everything, like, the whole, the idea of, like, it's a adventure with the Doctor because there's all this running and dashing around and being brilliant and saving the universe. Which is played to wonderfully tragic effect later when she's dying after she's, like, been fatally wounded trying to protect the baby and Amy. And the Doctor goes to see her, and she's like, it's like she's having a religious experience. Like, she's seeing this man that she has idolised since she saw him as a child, when she was a child. And she's like, you probably don't remember. He's like, of course I remember, like, we ran, didn't we run? And she's like, yeah, and she dies, like, holding his hand. And then Vastra asks him, like, who was she? And he's like, I have no idea. Aww. And you're like, oh my god, that's hot. Which could just be that he's not met her, or it's a commentary on just how much life he's lived.
Yeah.
Like, that's not him being like, I don't freaking know. He seems genuinely upset by the fact.
Yeah.
He seems genuinely upset by the fact he doesn't know who she is. And
I like
upset.
to think that it's somebody he's not met yet.
I like to think it's someone he probably already has, and he does that much stuff that he didn't take note. And it's because he's met so many millions of people over his life.
It's so tragic.
But it's because Matt Smith plays it like he's upset. He's not upset because he doesn't remember. He's upset because he feels like he should.
Yeah.
And he does all of that. He does all of that just by saying, I don't know, or no idea, when being asked who she was. And he says all of it with his face. It's just like, oh, he's so good.
He doesn't say no idea, I don't think, because that's a bit flippant.
I don't know, or whatever. Smith is incredible in this, but the episode builds up to his arrival. So we get Rory confronting a cyber fleet for information on the whereabouts of... I mean, what are they looking for specifically? I mean, they're looking for Amy.
He says, where's my wife?
Yeah, I've got a question from me and a message from the Doctor. Question, where's my wife? What is the message from the Doctor? And then, like, a bunch of the cyber fleet explodes. And then you get that really cool moment of Rory just standing there, and he goes, would you like me to repeat the question? It's just like, oh, damn!
Go, Rory.
They give Rory a lot of wiggle room in this. Like, he's still the goofy sort of ditzy guy, like, especially when he comes to rescue Amy, and it's just a little bit awkward because he can't get the door open and everything. And he's dressed as a Roman because they never really explained. It was the Doctor's idea, is the explanation given. And you realise he feels like a frickin' superhero wearing it. That's why he's doing it.
Yeah, giving him confidence.
The Doctor thinks it's some sort of status thing, but really it's because it's given Rory a confidence boost.
Yeah.
But he sells it.
He does.
Like, and it's that whole brilliant thing of, like, you could be an absolute, klutz. You could be a total clown. But if the person you loved is in danger, or your child is in danger, you will just get shit done to get them safe.
Yeah.
And it's again, it's all just in the way he plays it. It's Darville being very good.
Yeah.
Especially when he goes to recruit River Song from Stormcage, her returning from another breakout. Making it clear that this happens so often, which is so well played by Kingston. She's like, the security thing's going off, and she, like, puts the phone up, and she's like, don't worry, I'm breaking in.
I have my breakfast at the usual time.
Yeah. It's like, I love...
Like, I don't like River Song, but
this is the version of River I like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, the whole... We're catching glimpses of this wacky space adventurer / pirate / spy. Like, we're seeing these... Like, when we first see her again in Series 5, and she's on this mission, the guy's, like, hallucinating from the lipstick, and she, like, gets cornered by the dudes, and she opens up the air corridor to the TARDIS, takes her heels off, grabs her heels in a handbag, and just shoots out of the ship. Like, that sort of stuff, you go, this is really cool. I like this.
Yeah.
Like, it's not to be blasphemous, I know you're a big fan, but, like, it's Lara Croft...
No.
meets, like, James Bond kind of... Do you know what I mean? You're catching these adventures. She's Indiana Jones in space. And that's when she's at her
more
most
like Indiana
interesting.
Jones, yeah.
That's when she's at her most interesting
She's
to
not
me.
like Laura.
But the fact that Rory's like, we need to recruit you, and like she knows it's Demon's Run, she's like, yeah, I can't go. And it's such a great teaser at the start of the episode because he's like, why? She's like, because this is the day. Like this is the Doctor's like most important battle or whatever. But of course you're gonna say that's a mid-season finale. You want to get people excited. But she says like he will rise so high and fall, rise higher than he ever has and fall so much further. And she says, and I can't go because this is the day he finds out who I am. So we meet two different Rivers in this story because the one we see at the end is her earlier in her own timeline.
Yeah.
Showing up because she knows she's meant to show up on this day. But the recruiting stuff is great. Like Strax is a Sontaran soldier who was rescued by the Doctor or something or other, where like his punishment from the Doctor or his penance is that he's been forced to become a nurse to anyone injured on the battlefield. So even though it's not a Sontaran conflict necessarily, because he's in range of this thing, he shows up and like heals this young boy injured in this war. Cool looking sequence as well, because like everyone's in sort of like 1800s militaristic outfits with frock coats and everything, but they've got like modern handguns that fire laser clips. Yeah. It's like, that looks so cool and weird.
I want to know what this is.
It's like some Fallout, Bioshock, like weird anachronistic kind of. It's really cool. So he's recruited. We learn again just nicely through dialogue that at some point there was a lone Silurian trying to kill a bunch of people in the sewers in Victorian London because she thought that their hive was being disturbed, and the Doctor like showed her the right way and calmed her down, and when she couldn't obviously reset back into her stasis, he helped her acclimatise. This is Madame Vastra, who effectively is, and later on in stories still to come, we get the confirmation she's basically the inspiration for Sherlock Holmes. Like, this is who Arthur Conan Doyle bases the character off of.
Yeah.
Because she's a consulting detective who, in this, apparently defeats and eats Jack the Ripper. Alright. Fair enough.
I mean, okay.
Sure.
I'll accept that, because nobody ever found out who it was.
Well, Doctor Who's never going to do a story about Jack the Ripper in the show, is it? That's just too gruesome. You can't exactly explain to kids what he did, because then you get into all sorts of conversations about serial killing, prostitution, like, they're never going to do it.
Don't
Expanded
go there.
Media has, of course, done stuff with Jack the Ripper, but if you're going to come up with an in-show explanation as to, we're never going to do a Jack the Ripper story, but we'll tell you why he was never found. It's because a lizard lady ate him. How did you find him? Bit stringy, but tasty nonetheless. So we meet Madame Vastra, played by Niamh McIntosh, reprising the role as a Silurian from her two characters, Restak and I can't remember the other one now. Ilara, the nasty hostage one from last series, Abby. So she reprises the role. So we're going. It's one of those things where it's like, it's a weird choice as far as like, so the same person's always going to play the Silurians going forward, are they? That's weird. Like her playing sisters in the first appearance, sure, whatever. There's a notion that they're from the same like nest essentially, like they're from the same. Like they've either got the same mum or they're in the same gene pool.
Yeah.
But so every female Sontaran's going to be like this going forward. Bit weird. But two things kind of make it. Sorry, Silurian. But two things kind of make it work. Her having a Scottish accent is so subversive and weird compared to what you think you know about these creatures.
She had a Scottish accent.
She has a Scottish accent.
Does she actually?
Yeah. And also, Niamh McIntosh is very good. So it doesn't feel like, even though visually it looks similar, it doesn't feel like you're watching either of the previous characters.
No, oh my god.
It doesn't feel like she's playing either of the previous characters she played in this makeup. So it's
no,
like,
you're right. Actually, it's not distracting.
It kind of works because you're like,
yeah.
If you didn't know it was the same actor, you'd be like, wait, what? To find that out, maybe someone who's watching this right now is like, wait, what? And her sort of her Alfred Pennyworth, Dr. Watson, sidekick Jenny Flint, played by Catherine Stewart, who's like perfectly lovely and charming in this. The two of them don't get a lot to do, but obviously we'll talk more about them in later stories. Who throughout the episode they reveal, oh yeah, they're also lovers, which is played cute by the two of them, but like the way it's revealed is an implication of what Vastra does with her tongue. Because
guess what? It's
Moffat's
a Moffatism.
horny on Maine. Moffat is horny on Maine. Don't recall off the top of my head how many times he makes sexual innuendo jokes about male gay characters. We do have our first sort of prominent male gay characters in the story, though. I can't remember what they refer to themselves as now. Oh, the fat one and the thin one. Who, the fat one, gets his head cut off.
He does.
Because the army are working with this religious order called the Headless Monks.
Which is a cool name.
Cool name. It's a bit where... Good God! That's the attack prayer! Some of it does not work.
No, it doesn't sit, no.
As gruesome as them having their heads cut off and still being somehow alive as long as they're part of the order is weird. That bit where the thin one is in the crowd and they're being shown... Well, yeah, they never explicitly do it, do they? But they're being shown what the Headless Monks are. And, like people are inducted into it, and he knows that his husband has been inducted into it, or at least gone to like a familiarization talk. Like that's how it's dressed up as, isn't it? It's like an initiation to learn about them.
I don't remember.
But what happens is he gets basically handed over as a gesture of faith from the military.
Yeah.
And then you sort of see his husband, the thin one, looking around, and just very briefly, the camera just very briefly settles on one of the Headless Monks, who's a shorter, wider build than the others, and it's clearly the same actor, and that implication is enough for it to be like, oh, that's horrible. That's really horrible. And it's just really setting up the idea of, like, whatever the Doctor has seemingly done to warrant this, like, militaristic response against them, the people who are doing it and organising it are not good people.
Yeah.
Like, they're allowing this sort of stuff to happen. One last recruit. Returning Dorian Maldavar, played by Simon Fisher-Becker. Popping back in after being just a very distinct and interesting and charming performance in the Pandorica Opens last year. There's a little brief stint. Helping River out. I like the idea that he's essentially the owner of... we're getting some kind of, like, intergalactic version of the Penguin. Like, he runs a bar, all the seedy people hang out there, and he's making secret deals about, like, weapons acquisitions on the side. I love the scene where he's talking to Colonel Manton and Madame Kavarian, where he sort of says, like, if that man is collecting on his debts, referring to the Doctor, it's like, then God help you and God help his debtors. You know what I mean? And it's like, it really just set up the idea of, like, oh, this isn't the Doctor, like, righting a wrong. You've come after his friends. He's going to do something about this. Yeah. We've not seen the 11th Doctor really be vengeful. We've seen him be angry. We've never seen him be vengeful.
Yeah.
And we don't really see him be vengeful in this. He nearly loses it. But the fact that the episode makes us wait for his arrival, only to reveal that he's been in that scene, the last 3-4 minutes of scene we've been watching, he's been there the whole time on the stage, is really nice. The fact that Amy can see him from her window and stuff in the big warehouse space on the Devil's Run, is great. And the fact that he's surprised that Amelia Pond, get your coat, and then all the lights turn out. Vastra apparently recruits some Silurians, or maybe the Doctor does it separately. Some Jadoon are recruited. At one point, Captain Avery and Toby show up to stop Kavarian getting in her ship. So, like, he's called in a load of favours, basically.
Oh, yeah, and that doesn't make any sense because
well,
Toby...
to be fair...
No, it doesn't make
to
sense.
To be fair... The ship might have found a cure for his illness by this point. Or,
there's no cure for it.
Or it wasn't implied that the moment he left the ship he would die. It's that without the ship he would die soon.
Without the tube.
The tubes! No, because you see him and the other pirates in the cockpit of the ship at the end of Curse of the Black Spot.
Yeah, I know.
They're all staying there because they can get the medical treatment to stay alive.
The tube attached to him. The other ones.
Oh, true.
They were just like, they only had cuts. That's
Oh
why
yeah, okay, good point.
And then one of them just disappeared anyway and just appeared on the ship.
Stop thinking about it. It's fine.
Sorry.
No, it's really, oh god. But yeah, so we.
Because you know I'm right.
So we got So we got all these favours called in, and it's just nice visuals and the idea of like him. You know,
It's
so,
one
some
of those
from earlier
things
this series and some from stories we've again, that's something I love. Some of them from stories we've never seen. You have to imagine what the story is. You get enough information about You get enough information about Vastra.
Yeah.
You get enough information about Strax. You get enough of a hint of Dorian. Like Dorian's probably, the Doctor's probably got Dorian out of a hole at some point, because you have the whole thing of Dorian being like, "Oh, you're screwed. Like the people who owe him a favour, they're probably screwed as well." Ha 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 ha. And then you realise he's like, "I'm glad he's not called me in for a favour," because of course then he does. Can we talk about the scene where the Doctor comes to collect Dorian?
Oh my god, what was that laugh?
Yeah, your face. Oh my god. So what happens? Dorian walks into a room. The TARDIS arrives. He's like, "No, not me! No!"
You don't actually see the Doctor. It's kind of like this dramatic moment where
It's the first time you like see him in the episode, but not see him.
Yeah, he's in the doorway of the TARDIS, and he slowly turns.
His shadow's on the wall, and you see him turning. But is it Matt Smith?
No. I remember watching it thinking, who the hell is that? That doesn't look like the Doctor.
And then I rewound it and showed you again, and then I went, just Google the Doctor Who experience Matt Smith waxwork. I can't remember where I found this out, but Matt Smith was not available for this one pickup shot, especially because, of course, he's not on camera, so there's not really a priority. Do you know what I mean? If it's like if they're filming this stuff one day and he's not on set, or he's on a different location filming with the other unit, there's no need to get him down for this one shot, right? So you either add it in later, or you find someone to stand in. Now, when you have a mannequin that is allegedly a lifelike recreation of Matt Smith at your disposal, that's going to be used in the Doctor Who experience very shortly in the exhibit bit, why not use that? I'll tell you why not. Because it looks like someone's turning a mannequin on a fucking spinning Jenny.
It looks like Home Alone.
Oh, doesn't it? Oh my god, yeah. Kevin McAllister's like on the floor of the TARDIS pulling some strings to make it move. There's a train set going around underneath him, like, oh jeez, just, yeah, it's bad.
It's bad. It's really, we rewound it. I don't know how many times we
about
rewound
5 or 6 times. It was
just because it
wonderful.
was just so funny. It's so stiff. It's
Why do you like this one?
It's very dramatic. I like that. It kind of like the idea that the Doctor would move heaven and earth to rescue his best friend. Like not knowing.
And their baby.
Yeah, not knowing who's like why they've been kidnapped or who's kidnapped them or whatever. Yeah, I just thought it was very adventure-y, very Doctor Who-y.
The reveal that the baby is a weapon, or intended to be a weapon, to be used against the Doctor. And it's like, okay, this plan's getting more convoluted, so at this point they've not confirmed that these guys are in league with the Silence. Like, that's not been confirmed yet.
No.
But knowing
that...
that...
been referenced yet?
Not yet, no.
Spoilers.
No, well, come on.
To a show that's really...
Come on. But they want the child, and the Silence wanted the child on Earth in 1969 for the spacesuit, and we know these guys are... Well, now we know it's the same child, because we learn that the child has Time Lord DNA.
Yeah.
Because they were conceived on a bunk bed.
Because...
in the TARDIS.
Vastra was like, what?
Well, yeah, there's a very brief implication
part-time
from Vastra that, like... Have you and Amy had sex, Doctor? Like, it's a very... And it's this weird constant thing Moffat keeps doing in this series of, like, Amy and the Doctor, though, right, guys? And it's like, no, you got past that last series. That was the whole point. Like, we're all Amy and Rory all the way. What are you doing? But then you realise it's because it was conceived... So the child was conceived while they were bonking in flight on the TARDIS. I guess the implication being that maybe the Time Lords are what they are because they are born on Gallifrey, born of Gallifrey near the untempered schism, and like they're sort of part of the time vortex. It's always around them in some way, and blah blah blah. Obviously, this gets contradicted later with the time as children and everything, but still, it's like, okay, sure. I mean, A Surgeon Adventures has set up the idea that Artron energy can affect things outside of the TARDIS and time itself, because Clyde obviously like gets affected by it, and it comes back when the TARDIS is near him. But like in this case, it's like, okay, so the kid's a Time Lord. So you as a viewer at that point go, so the little girl, we saw her regenerate in part 1 of the series.
Yeah.
So this must be the same kid. And then this episode reveals that, Melody Pond, the people of that planet, the people of the planet that Lorna Bucket's from, because she makes them the little crochet, like...
The little embroidered...
That's it, sorry. It's like a little...
Don't get your crafts wrong!
Is it a space aider?
A space... Oh, I'm so proud of you!
And they don't have words for, river and song like in the same direct translation on their thingy. So like Melody Pond translates to river. Sorry, Melody and Pond. So it translates to river song. So River Song's their kid.
Da, 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 da.
And River Song arrives at Demon's Run after the battle, to much the fury of the Doctor, because that's when she has to be there to let them know that the kid is going to be safe because it's me.
I mean, the kid's not going to be safe because
but it's the whole thing of these events are determined, they're already going to happen, but like, it's me. Because the baby that Amy and everyone's protecting is a decoy, it's a ganger. Genuinely horrific when it just like explodes into goo.
And Amy's just like...
screaming as she's holding like...
Oh, and screaming
liquid.
for Rory. And,
yeah.
Oh, it's horrid.
The Jadoon the Silurians getting killed really easily by the monks is hilarious.
The monks, obviously, are headless.
That's the attack prayer. Awful.
Attack prayer.
Not the deliveries. Deliveries hilariously camp and sort of spot on for what it needs to be, but just the idea of, oh no, not the attack prayer.
It's the fact that they look like onions. Because obviously...
Yeah, the twisted tops.
They've had their heads cut off. Or like bread knots.
Like the end of a what the sausages that are like sort of the tied together at the ends. It's that kind of
sausage. I don't know.
Sausage. Toast. Regret.
That was a bit tough.
My favourite thing in this is the Colonel Runaway scene. It still is, where we finally get like plans happened. They've taken Demon's Run. Because demons run when a good man goes to war. Like, what? What is it? Huh? Anyway.
That's a
Moffat loves it. He loves his weird poems that never actually come up in the episodes.
If you could just feel my eye roll.
I mean, I like the title, A Good Man Goes to War.
Yeah.
Because the whole point is, he wins without a drop, as they say, without a drop of blood spilled.
That's not true.
No, when the Doctor wins, though, like, no one's died because of it. Well... a couple of the soldiers and a couple of one of the monks dies.
So there is some blood spilled, so it doesn't make any sense.
But not because of him, because of their own foolishness.
Well, it essentially is because of him.
Alright. Anyway, but I love that the first proper scene with him not executing a plan is him confronting Colonel Manton. And the whole thing is, he's like, I want you to tell you, because the other fleets are obviously going to come and see what's going on. So I want you to tell your men to run away. Just that. I want you to use those exact words. I want you to tell them to run away. I want you to be known as Colonel Runaway. I want children to stand outside your house pointing and laughing because they found the house of Colonel Runaway. It's such a...
So harsh.
But that's the thing, isn't it? It's like he's not like, I'm going to beat the piss out of you and find out what's going on. He's like, no, I want you to make sure we're not going to be interrupted, and also that you're going to be, like, humiliated for the rest of your life. Because he knows that that's something that would actually hurt him more.
Yeah.
Like...
it would kill his reputation.
Yeah, because he's clearly a very prideful, like, ultra macho, aggressive soldiery type. And he said, you think it was using my friends to get to me is in any way a good idea and stuff. And he sort of that moment he goes like, oh, I'm angry, that's new. I don't know exactly what's going to happen now. And you genuinely feel it. You're like, because we've seen him enraged. Like, his second story, The Beast Below. Like, nobody human has anything to say to me today and everything. It's like, we've seen him angry. We've seen him furious, but this is him like you don't feel like this is what he's going to do, but this is him on the cusp of like slapping Colonel Manton in the face, basically. Like, this is the first time you felt like he's about to lash out at someone.
Yeah.
And he's holding it in so much, and it's so foreign to this incarnation to feel this way.
That angry.
Because also it's guilt-led too. He knows the only reason Amy and her baby have been put in this situation is because someone's trying to get to him.
Yeah. Well, that's always the way, isn't it, with the Doctor? Everybody gets nabbed and jabbed because of him.
Knocked out, put in cells for an episode.
Tied up and...
Face changed, so Fraser Hines can have a week off because he doesn't feel well.
Tied up, the Master looks at your penis. Yeah.
You're still talking about Castrovalva all this time later.
He tied up a teenager.
And then got his cherry picker.
Oh, there's nothing like classic who. What was his name?
Anthony Ainley.
No.
Adric.
Adric, that's it. I just think of Turlo.
Oh, I can see your erection.
That was a really good impression.
Thank you. I really like A Good Man Goes to War. For all of the things I've nitpicked on it, it doesn't work on its own. It doesn't work on its own. It does what a good finale does. Because there's a difference between finales and final episodes. And something that this show has gotten used to at this point is having finales, like a story at the end of a series that works best if you've watched the whole series.
Yeah.
This feels like that.
Yeah.
Even though it's the mid-season finale.
The mid-season finale.
Also, this is the first one we watched on our new TV. The TV we've been watching all these on for the last few years is, as of now, a 12-year-old set that sort of came out just before the next generation of TVs with the upscaling and everything. So we now have a smart TV that's like 4K resolution and everything. And suddenly, the texture pop issue on these Blu-rays, the Series 6 Blu-rays, was gone because there was no compression issue anymore. This is the nicest this show has ever looked during our marathon.
It was very impressive.
So we're really itching to carry on with it, and we will do next time with Let's Kill Hitler. But before then, what did you think? What did you think, gentle viewer, of the Doctor's wife, the almost people, the rebel flesh, and A Good Man Goes to War? Do you give it 2 Matt Smith mannequins out of 2? Do they turn in doorways, backlit, shadowed against the what? Seriously, go and watch it and then Google that mannequin.
Fantastic.
Doctor Who experience, Matt Smith waxwork.
You will not... I mean, just type in Matt Smith waxwork, that's what I did. And it comes up. He looks green. Why is he green?
It looks like the Blackpool version of Two Swords where everything's not quite right.
It's not good. But we love it.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll see you. We'll see you.
See you, bye.
Say see ya.
Bye, see you, bye.
Oh, wheat.